Competition is going to heat up for the Miami Hurricanes in spring football, and these true freshmen are going to be out there trying to take people's jobs.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I am Alex Donno, University of Miami alumnus, co-host of Locked On ACC and host of Postgame on the Hurricanes Radio Network. And thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen or your second listen. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the #1 Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. On this episode, we'll look back on not only an awesome night on Tuesday night, with the basketball team winning in comeback fashion against Virginia Tech and the baseball team winning in extras on a walk-off within a couple blocks from one another on campus. But what's being built right now by Jay Lucas, and of course what's being built by J.D. Arteaga with the baseball team as well. But man, we have a lot to get to when it comes to football. We've been talking depth chart a lot the last couple days. I want to talk about freshman sleepers. That's why we're joined by a very good friend of the show, Brad Tejeda, who's with us now. And Brad, I think about names like Jackson Cantwell, Somourian Wingo, Asharri Charles. Like there are players that are arriving or have already arrived and are going through workouts who are going to be trying to take jobs as true freshmen this year.
Yes, absolutely, Donno. First and foremost, as always, thank you for having me on the show, talking some not only Canes football like we usually do, but like you mentioned, last night was crazy. I mean, I am super jealous being up here in Central Florida. I mean, being able to watch on TV, what happened at the Watsco last night with Coach Lucas, Tre Donaldson coming up clutch, which we'll talk about a little later. And then, being able to maneuver over to Alex Rodriguez Field and being able to see the crowd in the parking lots, watch and witness, that magical 13-inning walk-off by another transfer player, right? I mean, it's crazy when we talk about the transfer portal. It's usually just football, but yeah, the two guys last night, were from the transfer portal. And we'll talk about that a little later. But yeah, man, it's been great to watch all three sports really have some great runs here in the last few months. And to your question about the incoming recruiting class and incoming freshmen, essentially from this past class, you got to look right off the bat with a guy like Jackson Cantwell, right? I think when you look at someone like him, he fits the mold of exactly possibly being that next Francis Maianoa to anchor that offensive line for the next 3 to 4 years. This is a guy that is pretty much was on path to be an Olympian, track and field, right? And shot put was obviously his go-to thing with him and his family having the Olympian background as well. So this is a guy that has genetic traits through the roof. And then you turn on the tape and just the nastiness, the grit. He's one of those guys where once he puts his hand on you, it's pretty much over, right? He has a different build to a Markel Bell from this past year. But again, Markel Bell is another guy. Once he got his arms locked on you, it was pretty much it. And Jackson Cantwell has some of that unique features. And when you look at that offensive line, he's going to be going into a possible rotation of a lot of guys who haven't really got a lot of day one snaps at the next level. You're only really returning 3 guys, essentially, with Ryan Rodriguez, Samson Okinola, and Matt McCoy. So it's going to be very key for someone like him, especially, and a couple other guys who I'll mention who aren't just true freshmen, who we'll talk about a little later in the depth chart. But Jackson Cantwell is going to be one. Somourian Wingo, obviously, wide receiver, who you mentioned. This was a guy that going into the Ohio State game this past season into the playoffs, he was a young man that had the opportunity to start getting practices early as a true freshman. And he was essentially shadowing who would be Jeremiah Smith when they were playing up against, and he was doing a phenomenal job at that. So, I mean, that's huge praise for someone like him. And I think a lot of people, when you watch his tape, guy from St. Augustine, he was a guy that really popped on film, can make really big plays. His catch radius is through the roof. It's really going to put some pressure on someone like Josh Moore, in my opinion, and Upshaw, who we'll talk about a little later in the depth chart. But I think those two right off the bat are going to be two guys that are going to be very key. And then on the defensive side of the ball, I think the two you want to really look out for, I think one is JJ Dunnigan.
Yeah,
I
that's a
think
good
JJ
call.
Dunnigan is a player where, again, you look at his mold, his body type. He's very rangy. He could play all over the football field. He's a weight room guy. So, I mean, going through this offseason right now, I'm sure he's a guy that really sticks out like a sore thumb in a good way. Just watching videos and understanding, the family background he comes from. He's also a young man that has two younger brothers that I believe will probably be going after as well, who all are going to be, key into recruiting in the next 4 to 5 years. If I had to kind of put a player comp to someone like Dunnigan, he's more of like a Minka Fitzpatrick, Jalen Ramsey type of guy, in my opinion. I think he could bring a lot to the football field very early on, day one as a true freshman. And I think another guy that's been getting a lot of buzz is, Stencil. I think Stencil's
It's a
another
good
one.
call. Yeah.
Another one where I think, again, body types, right? You want to look at the body types. And again, he's going into a room where in years past, I think we put a lot of pressure in years past on really needing a true freshman to really step up because we just didn't have the reliable bodies to be consistent, rotate. And what you've seen in the last 2 years, what, Jason Taylor has been able to do with that room. And then obviously Coach Lewis as well this past year, we've been able to flip that room tremendously. And you're going to have a lot of good quality bodies where you're bringing in guys from the transfer portal, and Keona and also Jakars Carter. And then you're also returning guys like Scott Blunt, Moten, etc. So it's really not going to put a lot of pressure on some of these young freshmen. But if you already have the body type, the skill, and really can be unique, like some of the other guys we don't really have in the room, I think it could benefit someone like Stencil. And I know he's been improving pretty well in the offseason. So I think those are going to be the 4 or 5 names.
That's a great call. And, during the Mario Cristobal era, for as good as this roster has gotten, we've continually seen that if you are a true freshman and you beat the competition out, Mario's not going to be shy about playing you, right? I mean, we look at what Malachi Toney did this past year, and it's like after seeing how good Baby Jesus was in 2025, like it makes me go back to the shows that I was doing before the season started, like even wondering if he was going to be a starter. I feel kind of foolish for not having him drawn in permanent marker before the season even started. You go back to Ruben Bain and Cece Maui Noah, who are about to be first-round draft picks. They were both full-time starters in their freshman year back in 2023. Because I agree with your list, Brad. Like you listed guys who are especially Jackson Cantwell, who I think has the best chance to be a year one starter. Do you think there's a Malachi Toney in this class, though? Do you think there's somebody who's going to be like so dominant year one, or is it going to be more like a regular freshman class where you have some contributors, but you don't necessarily have like a player of the year type of guy?
I think the only 2 names that really come in mind, I think for one, are you going to get that playmaker, flashy type of skill player that really sticks out like a Malachi Toney in this class first year? I don't necessarily think so, just because the opportunity is going to be so much more slimmer at those skill positions, just because we're already so stacked and loaded with veteran guys or younger guys that have already kind of proven themselves. I think, a name to watch again is going to be JJ Dunnigan. I think he has the opportunity to kind of fit a role somewhere in the secondary, just because he could benefit from playing multiple positions. He's going to have a different skill set. I think he's going to have some early opportunity early on, especially in special teams. And I think obviously, it's not going to be the sexy name, right, as far as the skill player like I just mentioned, but I think you got to go with someone like Jackson Cantwell. If he, ends up producing, year one, he's going to have a huge opportunity to start right away in Coral Gables. And I think with the amount of snaps and the amount of games that we're looking for Miami to play yet again this upcoming season, it's going to be a long season. And if you can have a solid tackle at true freshman, he's not only going to make the freshman All-American. I mean, you're looking at someone that could possibly be an All-American when it's all said and done if he ends up, doing what he can. But those are big expectations for a young man. But I think he's a guy that I think Mario and Mirabal and others, have already said, like, this guy's different. And he definitely could end up being one of those guys.
Well, I want to know when we come back if Brad Tejeda is expecting any surprises on the depth chart. We get them every single year. What are the surprises going to be this year? You want to keep it locked. We're only getting started on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. Ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for two. That's right, flights, tickets, the whole experience. If you're already looking at the board and thinking about which team can make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock it in. I love futures this time of year, whether it's picking the team to win the championship or grab a conference title. It adds that extra layer of excitement to every game down the stretch. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. We're also brought to you by Indeed. Workplace chaos. Deadlines are stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill is still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for. Skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping that the right candidate will stumble across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours have just made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now. Support our show by saying you heard about it on Locked On Canes. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Thank you for making Locked On Canes your first listen. And if you're an everydayer, join the Everydayer Club. If you join that all-access tier, you get exclusive episodes, an exclusive newsletter, one-on-one text access with me, and a lot of other perks. Go to lockedoncanes.supercast.com or click the link in the show notes below. We're joined here by Brad Tejeda. So, Brad, I put out my my version 1.0 depth chart today, which there's a couple things I'm going to tweak. Let me pull that up here for you on the video feed. One thing is a minor thing. It didn't show me the X versus Z receiver on there, so I have those mixed up because it didn't tell me which one was going to be which until I published it. But I stand by my starters there. One of the regrets that I have is not including JJ Dunnigan in my 3 deep. I might fix that. I think the thing that's gotten me the most angry comments, Brad, which is predictable because Miami's running back room is so deep. The fact that I have Jordan Lyle as a 4th stringer behind Fletcher, Pringle, and Marty Brown has pissed some people off, but it's like my logic is simple, man. It was that 3-man rotation at the top at the end of the season. Lyle fell out of it. I do believe injury affected him, but he's got to go back and retake that job. Like, he's got to earn it back because he's behind Fletcher, Pringle, and Marty. And I have Pringle at number 2 because he started 2 games late in the season when Fletcher was injured. He actually started over Brown when they needed a spot starter. So that's why I have Lyle 4th string. But guess what, Brad? It doesn't mean a healthy Jordan Lyle can't climb up that depth chart because I think he can.
Yeah, absolutely, Donno. And I think if you would have just put another or between those names, I think fans wouldn't have gave you as much grace. And I think
I could have done an or between every running back.
I mean, I'm sure, you got to learn from Mario and the staff, right? They've done that in years past where they got a couple ors in between a few names, right? And
the other thing is, by the way, I don't control the ors. The ors just came up when I published it. So I don't even know why the ors are because I would have just left the ors out, but they're in there.
All good, man. But I posted a poll tweet a couple days ago, because of this fact right here. You brought up Jordan Lyle, and again, Mark Fletcher coming back was already huge news. And then you talk about Gerard Pringle, who Alabama and a few other schools were flirting with him to kind of get him to hit the transfer portal, which he indeed did, and then turn around and come back to Miami. You got to think, Miami had to pay, somewhat of a hefty penny to get him back to return at Miami and keep him. And when you do something like that, you're putting a lot of confidence in the young kid, and you're also, wanting to push him to be that next level. The only way to do that is to get him more snaps. So that's going to eliminate some more opportunities for someone like Jordan Lyle, to your point, who's coming off of injury. And then, of course, Shamar Marty Brown. We saw what he was able to do with us at Miami this past year as well. So, I mean, you got a good point. The poll I had was Jordan Lyle or Joshua Moore, who has the most pressure going into this offseason to potentially not only lose their job, but slide in the depth chart. And that's another name I want to bring up. Josh Moore, who I do believe has the skill to be the starting X wide receiver for Miami this upcoming year. I think all in all, it's going to be the competition in the room. I mean, you brought in 2 veteran guys from the transfer portal. You also got a kid in Upshaw as well who's going to be fighting for it. Vance Spafford, Somourian, Wingo. So, I mean, the list goes on and on as far as the guys are going to be pushing that room. And all it's going to do is make the best out of someone like Joshua Moore. So I'm looking forward actually to seeing some of these competitions within the practices throughout the offseason. I think the running back room and, of course, that X position is going to be 2 to watch. And then the other one I think that's going to be very interesting to watch on your list right here is going to be the left guard position. Who knows if Sampson ends up being at left guard, but I think the key name to watch in all this is going to be Max Buchanan. I've been very high on Max Buchanan from the beginning, ever since we landed him in the recruiting class. I thought he is the definition of what Mario and Maribel look for, not only in an offensive lineman, but just what a Miami Hurricane, takes on and off the football field. That grit, that nastiness, just the way he carries himself. A very quiet kid, but as soon as he straps on the helmet, it's ready to go. He gives me a lot of Inez Cooper vibes, as far as just his grit and just the way he plays the football game. So it's going to be very interesting, for him being able to watch Inez Cooper the last couple years, being able to fill in that next role. I think is going to be someone interesting for someone like Max Buchanan. And then when you look at the defensive side of the ball, man, I think you kind of hit it on the head with the starters on this side. I think just 2 names to really look at, right, again, is going to be JJ Dunnigan, to your point, who's not on your list, obviously, but I think he's a guy that could possibly fit the rotation somewhere in there. I can even name a guy like Cameron Bobby Pruitt as well. I could see him somewhere on this depth chart starting somewhere at some point in the season. But the other guy is Dylan Day. I think Dylan Day really this offseason between spring and fall is really going to have an opportunity to kind of showcase, hey, I'm not just a special teams guy anymore. The more he's been able to get reps in game situations and key downs and plays, he's been able to really show what he can do for this defense. And I think he's going to be a guy to watch. But I think the 2 names you're going to have to circle when you look up this defense, right, that is really going to be the anchor of this team, in my opinion, going up to this following season. If Miami wants to get it done, you're going to look at 2 names, and it's 2 transfer portal names. It's Damon Wilson and it's Omar Thornton. These are 2 players. These are 2 players that are going to have to replace key guys in Ruben Bain or Akeem Ezador, and then obviously Keontae Scott. But these are also 2 transfer portal players, Alex, that Miami's wanted 2 cycles ago. They didn't get them 2 cycles ago. They waited, got another a swing at it this past cycle, and they were able to land on both of those guys. So these are 2 players that weren't necessarily fit in the Corey Heatherman system this past year, but these are guys that fit Miami from the jump and guys that they evaluated and really wanted to be Miami Hurricanes prior to even Heatherman coming into the system, which goes to show you, again, a guy like Keontae Scott, a guy like Jacoby Thomas. These were guys that, although they did a lot on the football field, what they really loved about them was how they carried themselves and how they fit the Miami mold of what they're wanting to bring to this new and improved Miami team. And those are 2 guys in Damon Wilson and Omar Thornton that really hit that.
I like that a lot. You mentioned what just a magical night Tuesday night was, in that, it was like a quarter mile from one another at the Watsco Center and at the Light. And, Brad, I think about, times in the late 80s and early 2000s when the football team was winning championships and the baseball team was winning championships, right at the same time. Then a few years ago, Miami had a Final Four run in basketball, but the football team wasn't that good yet. The baseball team wasn't good, but it's like, how amazing would it be? And the football team just made a deep playoff run. If the basketball team now, they're a lock for the tournament, and the baseball team's off to a 4-0 start. Can you imagine if we can get a year where we can have deep playoff runs in the 3 top revenue sports? This is an amazing time to be a Cane.
Absolutely. I mean, what a magical moment was last night, just being able to watch both of those games and how it came down to the wire. And it just
Yeah.
felt like, let's break it down, right? First and foremost, we break down the football team all the time, so we don't have to really go back to the playoffs of them. But shout
Yeah.
out to Coach President Joe, to Dan Radakovich, to Rudy Fernandez. These are the guys behind the scenes that have really been able to make a huge mark on the sports, not just football, but what we're seeing with basketball and baseball, and really being able to get the right guys in the building and just being able to build something within. And to your point, everything we were able to do on the football field, it's really trickled and carried on to these other two sports programs. I mean, Coach Jay Lucas, I mean, what a huge, huge hire that was for the basketball team. I mean, this was a head coach that back in March didn't have a single player on his roster that is on the team right now, right? He literally had to build a team from scratch. And this was a team that probably had one of the worst records in all of college basketball last year. It's 7-24 last year, 3-17 in conference play, with losing streaks of 10 games, 7 games, and 6 games. And we're now currently on a 4-game winning streak, but we had a 10-game winning streak, prior early on in the basketball season. And what a guy like Tre Donaldson, what he's been able to do for this basketball team. I mentioned before about the transfer portal players on the football team that are going to make a difference and who have already made a difference on the football field. But now let's talk about the basketball. Tre Donaldson coming from Michigan, who's been coming up clutch. Shout out to our guy, Malik Rozier, who, that's his cousin, if a lot of people don't know that. I remember early on.
Right. Man,
and
I had Malik on last week and I didn't ask him about. I'm embarrassed now because I remember hearing that and I totally forgot.
Man, funny story. Notre Dame game, first game of the year this year. We're up in the suite with Malik, me and a couple of my friends, and Jazz obviously was up there too. And Tre Donaldson was up there, all iced out. Man, I'm not talking to him because he actually used to play quarterback back in high school. He was a really big recruit coming out of high school, not only in basketball but football as well. Dual athlete, could have played either way. But he was telling me, he was like, man, as fun as it is watching football, I need y'all to come watch us on the basketball court because we're going to do our thing. And sure enough, man, the dude's been clutch. You saw what a guy like Malik Renew, coming out late in the game and just you saw Virginia Tech. We already knew going into this matchup they were going to be a very battle-tested in-conference game, and they were just swapping players left and right, especially at the end of that stretch, getting fresh bodies. And I really thought it was going to catch up to us. And again, man, Tre Donaldson just coming in clutch. This is a team that, beating North Carolina, beating at NC State on the road in the clutch moments, and then again against Virginia Tech, man, what a remarkable performance for the basketball team. And then the baseball team, right? A couple weeks ago, I had the Cafecito hat on the episode, and now, sure enough, the baseball boys between Daniel Cuvier after his big-time home run last night, and then, of course, again, another transfer portal player in Vance Sheahan from upstate coming up clutch for the baseball team. So, again, transfer portal players are not just coming up clutch for football. You're seeing it in basketball and baseball as well. And, I mean, I thought early on, that 5th, 6th inning, I thought we were done, man. UCF's pitcher, shout out to him. That starting pitcher was killing us, first 5, 6 innings. And, of course, it goes right back to the grit,
That Saucer dude was going crazy.
Yeah, and it goes right back to the grit, man. You got to have the grit when everything's backed up against you. What's going to happen? And sure enough, just like the football team, just like the basketball team, carried over again to the baseball team last night. And it was just a magical performance, walk-off, 8-7, 13th inning, man. And just being able to watch the game on TV and just seeing the crowd of fans just hanging out in the parking garage like the good old days, awesome. Shout out to all the sports right now from Miami.
Yeah, because the timing was perfect because the basketball game ended, I think, when they were in extras. And so, and a lot of people park in the same garage, right, for both the basketball and baseball. So basketball fans are going back to their cars at the Ponce garage. They're like, hey, we can catch the end of this magical baseball game because Miami had come down from behind 5 runs to get it into extras. So that was just superb, and it was just special. And I hope we have more nights like that moving forward, throughout the home stretch of the regular season in basketball and into, Miami essentially now a lock for March Madness, which is great. And we always appreciate when we can take some time here with Brad Tejeda. Brad, thank you so much for joining us, man. And I know once spring football starts, we're going to have a lot more to talk about, and I'm going to have to keep tweaking my depth chart.
Absolutely, man. Thank you as always for having me. Miami baseball takes on Indiana State tonight. Let's get healthy. I know our guy at left field, Max Galvin's going to be out for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
But with the Gator series on the horizon next weekend, man, we got to get healthy and let's win that series. Go Canes.
Let's go Canes. Huge thank you to everybody for making Locked On Canes your first and your second listen. Smash that like button, subscribe. We'll talk to you next time on another episode of Locked On Canes. We are part of the #1 Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.